Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and I score them based on the store pages. Today, we're taking a little bit more of a lighthearted look at something that may or may not be something worth looking at. I don't know. We haven't really looked at that. We haven't looked at it all that much yet. So, what we do here is we go on the different store pages and I go and find games, new games, old games, doesn't really matter. This in this case we're looking at something fairly new that is also currently on sale on the Nintendo Switch at the time of recording this. If I go ahead and back out of this, I do see that Streamer Simulator 2026 is full price $9.99 right now, but the bundle is on sale for a little while at the time of this video going on or being recorded. So that said, we're going to go ahead and look at this and see what we have going on. This is apparently put together by Play Games, which honestly is one of the most generic of generic sounding titles or company names that you could have for a gaming publisher or developer or whatever the story is here. And we're going to go into a little bit of that towards the end of our little review cycle. So let's go ahead and take a look here. First off, we have our trailer. We're actually going to go down our usual order of operations here and look at the trailer. Now, the trailer starts off with a very generic baseline, but some not unpleasing graphics. The character models can be a little hit or miss, but considering that the models do appear to have some customization going into them, we'd get a little bit of a pass on there, especially coming from a smaller studio where the main focus is going to be the setting and the job of the streamer. Now, we do see a little bit of the character stats with hunger, hygiene, and all these different stats that you have to manage. So it's not just you going in and being on the stream, you're actually managing the streamer's lifestyle. And they also show us some of the characters' actual like streaming process where it looks like it gives you, the player, control in the game. The problem is that the game also looks incredibly generic, and we only see that one shooter game. So I don't know if you even get other game options or other types of content creation options. We're not shown that in the gameplay. We also see a little bit of the customization for the shop for clothes and stuff. And honestly, the clothes, like seeing every piece of clothing listed as like $100 or more, was incredibly on the high end for what I would. Now, I understand that for the sake of game development and balancing, maybe they wanted to make it like nice, even round numbers, but at the same time, the pricing just feels incredibly unrealistic for what they're trying to go for there. See, we have different shirts, 100, 150, $300. Everything is set as solid round numbers like that, but they're also set for absurdly high numbers for what you would think, as even if you consider like designer clothes in 2026. Maybe this is somehow set in the future. I don't know. Overall, I do like some of these close ups of the environment layouts and stuff like that. It's just some of the other aspects here feel like it might mechanically or balance wise be a little off center. We do have a series of screenshots as well. We do see screenshots of the actual live stream setting where we see the chat, we see everything going on. Uh, the streamer interacting with the chat, it looks like outside of a game, along with their viewer, subscriber, their donor amounts, which honestly, that $16 million or 16 million in gifts. That I am really wondering like how much of a power fantasy this streamer simulator is really trying to play at. Like I said, with the trailer, we do have in the screenshots another view at the the what you call it, the actual gameplay, and they even show a little question on the stream saying, "Have you ever met the devs of this game?" Is that one that we can see in the chat? We do see the question there in the chat as well, posted up there, so it does show you options where you can respond to the chat, either answering yes, no, or ignoring the question. So that's kind of a cool little thing there where you have that actual live interaction if you're able to multitask and play. And that is something that streamers do have to work with and function is interacting with the chat, be it in the middle of gameplay, in between gameplay, with other things going on. That's honestly, that is something that streamers do manage. We see another close up of the streamer behind the camera. See a lot of different, like varied characters. The facial structure looks very samey between them, but it does give you a lot of hair and outfit customization options. You know, what for better or worse. The character editor, we do see a little bit of stuff here going on with the cheek fullness. So you do have sliders working with the character creator, which honestly, those sliders might kind of maybe you can make some insane proportions or something like that with the basic head, hair, clothes, accessories. How much and how wild the proportions can get, I don't know. They don't go into that much depth here. We do see a little bit of variety here with the streamer's apartment, where honestly, it's kind of a weird apartment. They have like school lockers for a closet, it looks like, but their energy, their what is that stat? Composure? Okay, but energy, hunger, hygiene, health, hype, mental state, something else. Yeah, those two other ones. Toilet, I think, is that last stat. So you have to manage all of these stats and make sure that you take care of that. You have to manage your refrigerator. Looks like you also get food and grocery delivery. So looks like you're managing to live a lot out of the apartment. And they did mention in some of it that you also go through having to do side jobs and keep up with your bills, so paying your probably your rent and electric, which other simulator games of this capacity, like the TCG Shop Simulator, the Supermarket Simulator, they all have those things too, where you're paying for the power, labor, and rent on your storefront. This one probably eschews that a little bit because you are basically streaming right out of your home apartment, but I imagine you still have your internet and your electric to work with. If I were to draw any comparisons based on other game experience and similar setups I've had. That's just kind of a little interesting dynamic that we have here. Now, we do have to get into the actual nitty gritty of the description before we go and make our final judgment of this whole thing going on. Now we do have a little bit of there is a DLC and a sale going on a bundle with the DLC. So honestly, if you were looking to get something like this, the bundle would be the way to go. Get it for that $3 sale instead of paying the $10 full price. So anyway, the details. There we go. Go live, get noticed, and captivate viewers worldwide. Streamer Simulator 2026, not to be confused with any other streamer simulator. For example, I tried searching this on Steam's store page. This does not come up on Steam. The thing that came up on Steam was like some 2D graphics for 99 cents that was honestly, if you think this looks questionable, that one looked even worse. But anyway, I digress. Just don't confuse it for any other streamer simulator. This one is very much kind of this. I'll get into that as we go. It invites you into a dynamic world of digital content creation where every stream tells a story and every follower brings you closer to internet fame. Step into the shoes of an aspiring streamer and feel the thrill, pressure, and unpredictability of building your online career from scratch. This is more than a lifestyle game. That's quite a boast. It's a it's a full streamer simulation where timing, creativity, and strategy shape your path to stardom. Features realistic content creation, master live streaming, audience interaction, and editing with tools simulating real streaming platforms. Dynamic social trends adapt to viewer interests, viral moments, trolls, and sponsorships in a changing online ecosystem. Life and time management balance streaming with sleep, meals, side jobs, bills, and manage stress and burnout. Okay, that's kind of a cool thing to acknowledge in the simulator. Customization and modding. Personalize your setup, overlays, outfits, and create or download custom events and content. Now, that makes it sound like the kind of thing where you would have other kinds of DLC, but I'm wondering if they just mean like download the custom events and stuff in game, because it is a Switch game, so any like prolonged stuff going on here would very much depend on what the developers make available. Will you shine in the spotlight or vanish in the algorithm? And this software description is provided by the publisher. So, another thing that I thought was kind of interesting to note here, they do have a content thing in here saying there is warning if you have okay, that wasn't it. But blood, language, and violence is noted in the ESRB rating. So that's kind of a weird thing. So something I wanted to highlight here before I get into a full rating is the developer itself, this Play Games developer. Now, I'm not even going to really bother looking at the streamer simulator balance rise here. I will go ahead and note that what it is appears to be kind of like a starter bonus pack, where basically for $2 on top of that $10 price tag, you can basically get it's like a paid DLC starter kit to kind of help get the early game launch going. Whereas the bundle just comes with that included for $3. So again, like it's an interesting marketing thing where they really seem to be kind of digging for the sales there. And if we go ahead and take a look at this from Play Games and look at this list, you might see kind of why they do something like that. They have Dinosaur Survival Simulator Prehistoric RPG. Does that say RPG? Yeah, Prehistoric Simulator RPG. That's a thing. Storm Chasing Sim 2025. Zoo Manager Simulator. Drive through fast food simulator. Baseball Card Shop Simulator. Storm Chasing Sim 2020. Oh, that's the same one. With the bundle. Okay, so the bundle is actually full price while the base is on sale. That is a weird choice considering what they're doing for this one. Squid Survival Simulator. It looks like it's trying to be Squid Games with like a very off-brand knockoff. Succubus Sexy Devils. That's apparently another thing this developer has. Police Border Contraband Patrol. Okay, Ultimate Battle Simulator, Truck Simulator 2025, uh Tra- Tralalero Tralala Simulator, and Retro Motel Simulator. So they have a lot of simulators and a couple of other games, all with a very similar graphic style, which tells me that this company seems to like churn out things with stock and recycled assets. At least that's what it looks like. That's the kind of vibe that we're getting here. But we are here specifically to review Streamer Simulator and not the rest of those games. I just wanted to go ahead and highlight that because with a name like with a developer name like Play Games, it makes it really brings into question like how much actually goes into the development, whether they actually test and work with testing and actually publishing reliable running games. It kind of leaves me a little on the fence of, is this game even stable enough to really put out to market? Anyway, what we have here, again, full price for $10 is something that I would absolutely not play. I know I've commented a little bit on the graphics here, where it looks like a lot of stock generic assets, even with the 3D stuff. Like, I do like the apartment environment that they have in there, but it feels like most of the work into this game's graphics went to that. The character models do feel a little generic, even with the customization available to them. Um, the only sound we really get is an incredibly generic bass line of background music in the trailer. The gameplay, it does look like it has some cool things to it, and the menus and UI look at least intuitive and serviceable. but it does still feel kind of bare bones. The gameplay is probably the most interesting thing where they do highlight with a promise of some things that get into that streamer lifestyle. And as somebody who has done a fair amount of casual hobbyist streaming myself, I kind of get that. And for people that are streamers to larger communities and uh larger viewerships, I respect that they have that stuff going for them too, and all those things that they juggle, managing the chat, managing burnout, managing their schedules, bills, life, everything else that revolves around it. It's kind of a cool thing to see promised in the game, but promises need to look like they're backed up with something. So that brings us down to the pricing. $10 full price for what I'm seeing here, for what looks like something that is churned out in mass from at least a publisher. I can't even be sure if I really call it a developer or if this was developed by some small handful of people under the publisher umbrella. It's hard to say, especially because this game, it seems to be only on Switch here. I cannot find this on Steam. If I look up the game, it simply does not exist there. It is only here on Switch, which makes me feel like it's tossed on the eShop on this sale price with the DLC included, so that people browsing for sales on the Switch might be like, "Oh, that looks like a good deal. Look at, like, it's 3D graphics at least with a simulator for $3. Yeah, I'll drop $3 and give it a try." Honestly, for even $3, I don't know if I can really recommend that. I've played other games for like $1 to $3 where I looked at it and I'm like, I can't even believe that I spent that money on it, considering that sometimes the gameplay loop is just incredibly repetitive. It's not that engaging. Sunseed Island was kind of like that. I will say, at least Sunseed Island had a charming visual aesthetic. Now, it's not necessarily a visual style that I found very engaging, but it looks like the drawing style and those characters had some care put into their design, whereas this one, again, feels like some generic 3D assets. I can't even say that the characters look like they had a lot of real intent put into them. That's just kind of the vibe that we're getting here, though. So we do have to go ahead and try and. I do need to give this a rating of some sort. Now, again, $10, I think, or $10 or $12 with the DLC absolutely feels like too much for, again, what feels like something that is generically churned out. I do not have a lot of faith with the developer. It's a very generic dev name or studio name or publisher name that looks like they basically got some mass market contract to just push some things out that get fast tracked to the eShop. And I do know, just from having browsed the Nintendo Switch eShop, there is a fairly large chunk of games like this that that basically that's what they look like. They look like they're trying to cash in on popular simulation genres, but pushing things out cheaply, where the controls aren't really tested or thought through. I have seen other simulation games like that. I've reviewed, like, towards the very beginning of this Judging by the Cover series. I even reviewed two individual TCG shop simulators that were on the Switch that were not made or set, or that they were not made, they were not ported by the actual, edition of the game on Steam from that developer. Again, they seem to be kind of just riding the coattails of a trend even years after the initial, like, shop and supermarket simulators started to kind of gain some traction with the actual dev and community support. So with that said, I got to give the store page for this a pretty unfavorable 2 out of 10. Now, I'm not going completely on the bottom because, again, I do think that some of the systems that they promise here do look decent. The apartment looks good, and the systems for managing your stats look pretty good. But the layouts, the overlays, the way they only show one single game for your streamer to play, it seems like they didn't even go very far into the game for their own trailer as you were setting this up. And this, like I said before, the store balancing with the pricing seems very weird when a single tiny t-shirt costs $100. That it seems like they just kind of threw numbers at the wall without putting much thought or intention behind it. And on top of that, the fact that it is one of these Switch games that looks like it is. Now, I don't want to use the word slop because I don't like that. I feel like that word does get thrown around a lot, but it does kind of feel adjacent to that in the way that I don't even know that I can justify the $3 price for the bundle. I know for a fact I can't justify $10 to $12 for this. And again, that $2 DLC even just appears to be a like basically an easy mode. It even says expand your experience with an additional 500 added directly to your in-game balance. So basically you start with an extra $500, unlock more customization options, access new content faster, and shape your streaming journey with greater flexibility and freedom. So, yeah, basically you're paying $2 for an easy mode to the game, which doesn't feel good. It feels very it feels like they're trying to just get you to get you to pay more to spend less time with the game, since it feels like it would basically remove some of that early game grinding. 2 out of 10. I feel like there are some cool ideas on paper here, but considering the developer's catalog and the overabundance of simulator games on Steam, or on, not on Steam, but on the Nintendo Switch eShop, that have this same visual style, even when some of the graphics do actually look okay. Like the I keep saying the apartment looks good. Maybe the refrigerator interface looks a little janky, but certain things about it do look good, and it looks like there's some ideas. But I have a hard time having faith that this game delivers on what it promises. If anybody else out there has shelled out the $3 for this bundle, let me know if it even comes close to living up to those promises, because I sincerely have my doubts. I could see myself maybe dropping the $3 on this just to try it out and see for myself, because $3 really isn't that much. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to give the developers those $3, because giving them those $3 without knowing that I'm getting the value out of it might just kind of encourage more stuff like this to populate into the game space. And I do like seeing projects from small studios, from independent studios that have some passion behind them, but it's really hard to see the passion behind this when it has the pedigree of this particular studio. This, I keep forgetting the name just because it's that generic and forgettable. Play Games. Play Games. I don't know if I can justify rewarding Play Games with even $3 just to try this out. So please, if anybody has actually played this, tell me what you think.